All right, what is up, everyone? SB Philosopher here, welcome back to another episode of the RePHIL Studio. Get your cans ready, as we always do. A refill to 99 for this set. I also want to mention that this is the final episode of the RePHIL Studio podcast, at least for the time being. This is a pretty big decision I had to make at the end, and just to give a bit of context of the reason, the podcast started pretty much exactly 2 years ago, where I thought it was a really good idea to make a podcast series where people could just listen in, hear some stories from tiers in the Bangjin community, and learn a little bit more about other people who are tiering and are in the community. This came at a time where the pandemic was happening. A lot of people were pretty much staying at home and needed some form of entertainment. That's why a lot of people, let's say, for instance, got into anime, got into a lot of TV shows, and podcasts were a really big thing as well. In a sense, I was actually kind of inspired by a couple of sports podcasters. They were just kind of doing their own thing, having a great time, and I thought this was something that I wanted to try out. So that's where the RePHIL Studio podcast really all started, again, because of the circumstances of the world. And I thought it was a really great opportunity to just learn a little bit more about others and have people be able to share their stories and be able to do that. Now, of course, ever since then, it's now been 2 years and the world has sort of relaxed on a new normal. And now people are exploring other options, and myself included, in terms of life, right? There's a lot of things that sometimes we want to move on. And it also gets to the point where personally, and this is just, going from a personal perspective, the fact that I am sort of half retired, basically fully retired from Dori tiering, it does become a lot more challenging to host these podcasts, because when the community continues to grow and you sort of fall behind on who is a part of the community, it does become a lot more challenging to host podcast episodes where maybe you're not as familiar with other people, and trying to have them join the podcast is not easy. Having conversations that are fruitful is also not easy when you're not really familiar with with as many people as you are before. And ultimately, I want to make a product or content that I'd be satisfied with, that I'd be very happy with in terms of what I want to do. And ultimately, when you're a little bit more detached from the community and episodes start to feel, I don't know, it's hard to say. It kind of feels a little bit more, I don't know if I could add more than what I could do, or maybe feel satisfied with what I want to do with the podcast. I want to be able to deliver the best content. And if I'm not necessarily fully engaged in the community, and also not necessarily doing my best to give the best content, then that's something I want to make sure I don't want to do. I want to make sure that I give the best content possible. And I think at this point, when we hit the 2-year anniversary, where life has moved on, the world has moved on, the sort of podcast life has moved on, and as well, my involvement in the community has definitely not been as strong. I do feel that it is a time to close that chapter and be able to move on. Now, don't worry, for those who are fans of my content, I will still be making content on YouTube, just other videos and all that. So no worries about that. That will still go on. I still wonder if there's an opportunity, or there's heart in me to continue the podcast series. And I feel like there might be a time where things might come back, and the itch might come back for me to share more stories and have people share stories, maybe in a slightly different format, not necessarily in the podcast, but in other ways or other methods. But for the time being, in terms of this RePHIL Studio, I would say that this episode 60 will be the finale of sorts. And so basically, this will be the sort of end all be all to sort of summarize and wrap up this project, at least this 2-year project that I would say I'm really proud of. I think the one thing that I took away from this project the most is just how many great stories there are, just how many people that really have been inspired by the podcast and inspired by tiering by listening to other people. I think a lot of people I didn't really realize how much impact this podcast may have brought for some people, or they may have never thought about or heard about tiering. But hearing the stories from other individuals and hearing about how they were able to achieve their goals really sort of inspired other individuals to learn more about tiering and eventually be able to try tiering themselves, and then also end up being a part of the podcast as well. So it's very fascinating to see. And I think that's the thing I really enjoy the most from this podcast, just being able to, being able to have people share their stories, have a platform to share their stories, which sometimes it's very difficult to do so unless if, you have a group of people that you're in VC and you just so happen to share the story. But yeah, being able to give that platform for others to be able to share their story is something I'm really proud about in this project. And again, it's a shame that I don't think I'll be able to continue it in a way that I feel that it would do the stories justice. But regardless, I think that that's the thing I'm most proud about this podcast. And I do hope that that's a main takeaway from individuals who have been listening to this podcast for the past 2 years. Again, it's kind of amazing how it's been happening for 2 years, and here we are. So thank you everyone for being a part of the RePHIL studio. And I hope that this last episode will do some fun justice in order to, make a really nice finale for this podcast. So for those who are listening and just kind of getting an idea of what's going on, I'll be asking some studio questions. We have a lot of discussion questions to point out. So I want to go over these questions, and this will also open up the floor to viewers as well who are listening to the podcast live right now as we speak. You may have seen individuals already typing in the studio lounge and contributing their comments, but I'll also be entertaining some individuals who want to listen in and be able to share their thoughts in voice as well, just very briefly about what they think about very specific questions here. So let's get right into it. So let's talk about the first question here. The first question is my first question with the studio question. And again, I also always ask these to my Discord server members, so to contribute. So yeah, that's something I do for these episodes. And the first question here is, what are your thoughts about the direction of JPdori? And I put an example about the new bonus percentages for events and mimicking many trends from Project Sekai. I put those specific examples because, again, it was actually a very recent addition where ENdori has took another sort of note from Project Sekai and decided that gacha characters actually gave additional bonus points for events. So that is a very interesting idea, which is very fascinating. You could definitely see the direction of ENdori and how it's heading as it continues to grow. Personally, I feel that it is starting to, in a sense, lose a little bit of its own unique identity. But I do understand that for some, in a maybe a business perspective, whatever is popular in 2017 is not necessarily popular now, and times have changed and you have to adapt. But I also worry that, you start to lose a little bit of its uniqueness and its what makes ENdori special and different compared to others. Yes, perhaps following whatever Project Sekai does in terms of their systems with like the gacha, with like the events pointage system, as I mentioned. A lot of things like, for instance, the 3D lives, even going down to like character ranks and all that. These are very, very much inspired by the success of Project Sekai, and ENdori is definitely trying to follow suit. But I do worry about the fact that they're trying to do too much to be similar just so that they could stay competitive. And I'm not sure if that's what the fans want. Maybe newer fans, sure, but that's something that I'm a little bit worried about. Yeah, so I'm gonna like sort of list out some of what people have to say here. As an example, we have Yvette saying, "Just stop, please stop," and we had Hadamori say, "Worst thing they add, no one sees the positives." I still see the positives personally because, again, it does add a little bit more development to the game. It adds a little bit more depth than just tapping on the screen over and over, right? With the 3D lives, with the character ranks, I still think those are really good additions. Also, the gacha being a little bit more lenient with things like the star stickers and all that. I think these are welcome additions for sure. But I think, again, just the direction that they're focused with things like the monthly pass, with things like, again, like the event points, and just the fact that they really are trying to encourage people to spend more money, I do think that is a little bit of a difficult scenario where, again, where tiering is also a little bit more challenging as well with the 10 flames. That is something that, again, I do think that it is starting to become a little bit more predatory, which is something that I do think that needs to be maybe toned down a little bit. Mew says that it is confusing. Do like them adding 3D models. Don't think it's a bad idea. It's fun. But don't know how to feel about everything else, especially how they're making event tiering more difficult and competitive than ever before. And ultimately, again, competition in tiering events is what drives the revenue, right? The more people that spend money in order trying to get the tiering ranks, which includes even splitting up the ranks. You may have even noticed there's a data mine that mentioned that the ranks are going to be split up even further, split up to like top 10, top 20, top 30, top 40. They're being even split up even further than that. So there's going to be competition everywhere throughout the top 50 and top 100 eventually. So that is something that I think is very, very. It does encourage people to spend more for sure. It definitely does. It definitely does. Let's see if there's anything else here. Dia says a lot of it's just whale bait, not very good. Parts of it are fun, like the pity system, but even that might be poorly implemented. So I do agree with that at that point as well, right? Just the fact that it does feel like it does encourage more spending. I think that's a pretty sort of wide spectrum of opinions here. Mie says, I feel like these updates are making ENdori use its uniqueness. Yeah, that's very true. Taking the features from Sekai they dislike the most included gacha event bonuses, costumes locked behind paywalls. That's a big thing as well. And I think there was people discussing in the studio lounge as well how being locked behind paywalls is like the costumes and such. That is a pretty big blow for sure. That makes things a lot more inaccessible and does encourage a little bit more spending just to get like a really nice costume for your favorite character. And again, just being a Project Sekai clone could make it seem like a budget version or like a different version that people may not necessarily be happy about. So PP Denshi said scary for future tiering. Now, I think for JPdori, that's going to be an impact. I really don't know how ENdori will be when it comes to tiering. I don't think it'll necessarily be that much more competitive. The player base is definitely slowly dwindling. I personally believe. I don't know if that necessarily changes how ENdori will tier or how that will function. I think a lot of other things about the game will impact how ENdori will continue to grow or not grow. And then things like, as Will mentioned in the comments, 2020 rosters, like T20, T30, like again, the divide is going to be pretty interesting to see and whether or not. But I feel like overall it's probably going to be very broad division, right? So I don't think you need to be that specific, but we'll have to see how that goes. And finally, we have Dezillas. We have a couple more. Dezillas mentioning that there's too much. There's too much to upgrade, too much things to look at. Like there's just content overload, and then the 3D lives as well that are not. Again, 3D lives just being able to. I think it also puts a lot of pressure for someone to actually have a decent device to be able to play the game. And that's also it is a little bit restrictive on who gets access to play the game. If the game is asking you to have good specs on the phone, that's going to be an issue, right? That'll be an issue where those who may not have the affordability to get a phone that could run the game smoothly, they're going to get also turned off by the fact that the game continues to run at a rate where it does encourage more storage And of course, in order to get full benefits of a particular game, that you need to have a better phone as well. So that is definitely something that you have to be very mindful of. I'm just going to answer this one more question from Nag, or what Nag has contributed. And if anyone else wants to contribute their voice on what they feel about the JPdori direction, feel free to raise your hand in the stage section, and I'll attend to you, and we'll be able to do that. But Nag has also mentioned, saying Bandai would like to do their own thing instead of blatantly try to copy Sekai. Still sad to see that Bandai eyes go, since that they look so good on everyone. Yeah, I also think the art direction is pretty interesting as well. So it is different for sure. So I'm not sure how I feel about that, but I think that some of the art styles I think I could get used to for sure. But I think the general consensus that people are quite concerned about the fact that they're trying. JPdori is doing a little bit too big, too big, too soon. And trying to do things that work rather than try to be unique in its own thing. And I think maybe they've done some research and realized that they have to copy in order to be successful, right? Copy the homework of the most successful student, which is of course Project Sekai. But I guess to the point where you do wonder if they start to alienate their current fan base, and who are already moving to let's say Project Sekai, and may not come back to a game that's pretty much the exact same. So I don't know. It's very interesting. All right, so we have Dimitri who wants to hop on in and want to say a few words with regards to this particular question. So again, for those listening to the stage, we're not going to answer every single question right now. We're just going to answer this specific question. So if anyone wants to contribute to that, feel free to do so. Dimitri, are you online right now? Yeah, I hear some. Is it good? I hear some nice keyboard stuff. So, Dimitri, you already
sorry. It's not a keyboard. I just checked my mic. Okay.
All right. So, what do you think about JPdori right now?
So a lot of people said that JPdori is getting all of these kind of new stuffs, the bonus percentages, the mimicking the trends from the Project Sekai, the 3D lives, all that kind of stuff. But I have a mixed bag about all of this kind of things. Mm-hmm. So first of all, when I compare the 3D lives of Bandori versus Project Sekai on the Android device, it kind of looks like that they didn't use the full untapped potential of the Project Sekai. Now, I know iOS users are not getting I think more than 30 frames per second when playing these things, when just playing it. But when I played them on my own device, I can get them all the way up to 120 frames per second. Now, I know Android devices can have displays with even higher refresh rates, but the good standard is 120. So to my eyes, Bandori doesn't seem to get more than 60 frames per second. Probably it's even locked to 30. It may be fixed with a future update, but for now we only have up to 3060. I don't know. But the most important point is that probably 80 to 90% of people are not going to be really bothering with the 3D lives. The next thing I want to talk about is, copying all of these extra advantage points that the Project Sekai has. So yeah, as several people have mentioned, extra whale link is going to be involved. People perhaps spending more money, which is really, really going to be sad for their bank account and such. As a person who started playing this almost 4 years ago, I have been always free to play without any kind of ruble spending involvement. So I've been always saving it for spending it on an internet, mobile carrier, because they're really cheap here. And generally speaking, it's really the currency exchange became really expensive, and with the fact that you can't really officially do spending in an Android version because Google has officially shut it down as of last year, it becomes even harder. Now on iOS you can still do it, as far as I know, but you must have a Beeline or MTS mobile carrier. I don't really think you can do a Megaphone / Tele2, so good luck doing that. But what is it like other things that JPdori have gotten? I forgot.
went a little bit of a tangent there, and then now.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry, I just woke up. It's only 7:52 a.m. here.
No worries, no worries. Yeah. Any last thoughts, and then we'll move on for sure.
So there's definitely a mixed bag about the JPdori's new kind of things, and to some extent, it's kind of cool that they finally started listening people, like adding a high refresh rate and stuff. But at the same time, they make people spend more money, and it's all kind of a bad.
Yeah. I do kind of agree. There's a lot of features that really make it really unique or really fun, and like, you know, the 3D lives make it look really cool. You know, as an example, and there's some features that make the arts look really nice. But at the same time, you kind of feel that they start to become a little bit more predatory, and that's something that I think that for free to play players like yourself, it does feel a little bit difficult to feel or justify what you want to do. So yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
for
true.
Sure. Great. All right. Well, thanks, Dimitri, for contributing. And next, we'll have Crowley up on board as well, just to see what they have to say as well.
Okay, hi. Can you
Hello.
hear me? I checked my mic beforehand, but I need to make sure it's working.
Yep, it is working.
Okay, so I already kind of said this in the studio lounge, but like, I have nothing against Project Sekai at all. I just don't like how much ENdori is pulling from it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's my main issue. Like the 3D lives and the character rank and stuff, like that's not an issue, but like the battle pass and the more incentive to spend money is what I have an issue with.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I feel like they're just pulling too much from Project Sekai, and I don't like that.
Yeah. Just,
but yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say.
Definitely, you know, just the fact that again, there's a lot of things that we feel that, like it feels kind of odd why they have to necessarily take from Project Sekai and make it try, not necessarily make it unique, but just do exactly what works, right? And yeah. I think that does feel a little bit frustrating for a ENdori fan, especially because ENdori started off first, right? They were the old OG, and Project Sekai was the new child. And it's funny how where it kind of the roles flipped, where instead of the new child learns from the senpai, you kind of do the other way around. So it does feel a little bit frustrating for sure.
But yeah, that's basically my main issue. I just don't like how much they're pulling from it. Like it, like I said, I have nothing against it. I just wish they would stop pulling so much from Project Sekai. That's all.
Yeah, so I do agree as well. Just, you know, hopefully they can do something a little bit different or a little bit unique. But overall, that's something that I feel that maybe Bushiroad will look into. But I think for the time being, you know, the direction seems like they're just going to do more and more similar things. So we'll see when it becomes a situation where they can finally do something a little bit unique. But I do think that, you know, ENdori did do, like, let's say the lives themselves, like the actual physical in-person lives. That's something they did first, and they do very well, and they continue to do very well. So, but that's obviously not the game, right? The game is is different. So let's move on to talk about the next studio question here. The next studio question is talking about our favorite game, which is the EN server of the game. So the studio question, the second one I asked, what should be ENdori's #1 priority to maintain the best player experience? And I'll answer, or I'll sort of, once again, first say what our viewers have to say in the text, and then from there attend to any individuals who have some opinions on what they have to say about ENdori. First of all, Yvette's our favorite PubDori or Pubcorn mod. Solve any potential issues going on with the team and communicate any potential issues that could arise ahead of time instead of leaving us in the dark. And funny enough, this comment was mentioned like about last week, but literally like a day or two later, ENdori wrote a letter to the fans on what they were going to do for the next version update. So for those who are maybe unfamiliar with the next version update, we expect that the next version update is actually going to be V7.0. We're right now at V6.1, but there was supposed to be 6.2 and 6.3, but we're just going to jump straight to 7.0 because ENdori and the ENdori team told us that they don't really want to spend all that time to go for those minor updates, where 7.0 is the big major update that will include the 6th-year anniversary things that we see in JPdori. So instead of trying to focus on getting those minor updates out, we are going to see them focus on going directly to get to 7.0, which means certain features, like for instance, burning 10 flames at once, or being able to do like one auto, I think, play once per day. Those features will not be implemented until V7.0 is out. But I think those particular changes, I don't think a lot of people care too much about. I remember seeing a tweet from Hobie Dixon. It's like, okay, you could delay those features a little bit later. We don't want to see those features. Yeah, but that does mean we have to wait for, let's say, the AP indicator that is in the earlier updates, and we have to wait until 7.0. That's a little bit of a shame for sure. That's a little bit of a shame to see that we have to wait for that. But that's just how it goes. They did mention as well that it is going to be released before the end of the year, which makes sense. We kind of did a little bit of timing on what we feel is when the 60th anniversary related events were going to be added to ENdori, and they were going to project it to be done by around the end of the year. So that's what we expect to happen there. So funny enough that Steve mentioned this point, and ENdori immediately delivered like right after. So we are getting some transparency. So they're already working on that. I do think that's a very important point, though, right? Get the team to share what is going on and share to the fan base what they plan to do moving forward. And that's this communication is very important. And I honestly think Mandarin does a pretty decent job, but it's not as accessible if, let's say, you're not in pubcord. So I think that's something that is very mindful. Mew mentioned fix the servers and issues. It feels like every event has a problem, specifically with connection issues. Catching up to JP shouldn't be the main priority, but solving the current issues should. I think the fact that they're going to catch up to JPdori, I think it's just now part of their design. I don't necessarily think they're going to change that. It'd be kind of weird to suddenly change that and be like, okay, well, we're going to go back to the old schedule. But I do think fixing the servers is a very big priority that they need to do. I believe in the recent event, the crazy Halloween, the Afterglow Halloween event that happened in July or June, fun. But let me get this bug out real quick. there's like a random like bug that's flying around. Apologies. This is just like random stuff that's happening in Pocket. Anyway, as I was saying, they have to fix the servers. Yes. There was some major server crashes in that particular event, the Halloween Afterglow event. People complained about it. I think they were using like some sort of third party server system or something. I don't know exactly, but there were some pretty interesting happenings going on. So the servers are not the most stable, albeit I do understand and acknowledge that servers are expensive and it does take a little bit of time to manage. But I do think that is one of the main priorities. Dimitri, who will probably share their thoughts very shortly, is about stability. All about stability. You have to make sure stability is there. Joe mentioned fix the servers, make sure the major updates will get effed up like happened previously with one of us. Again, the fact that they told us that they aim to have this done by the end of the year, fingers crossed they're actually aiming to do so to make sure that V 7.0 will be out by the end of the year indeed. So that's the hope. We will see if that does become a thing and whether or not that will be a situation where that happens. Dia says, please start communicating with the player base. Stop leaving us in the dark. And it'd be great to get an ETA on certain updates that are late. And again, there you go. So a lot of people, funny enough, kind of complained about it in the studio question. And lo and behold, people actually, it's almost like as if Bushiroad staff is listening in the UNGA Academy Discord server. I don't know. Looks like someone's working there and just like, oh, let's complain. And then they saw it, be like, okay, bet. PP10, she says, not so whale-centric, so can continue to cultivate a new player base. that's hard to manage, because again, if it becomes, because the game itself is already focused towards and moving towards a whale centric, or more towards a higher spending in order to keep up. That's just the reality of gacha games, that they have to do that in order to keep up. And ENdori, of course, is going to follow suit with JP. So I don't know necessarily if that's going to be something that we could change. But yeah, obviously, if there was methods to make the game more free to play friendly, I think that would be very interesting and neat. But I do think that it will be a situation where I think the game is just going to continue to become a little bit less free to play friendly. So yeah. And I think that's all with regards to that particular question here. So again, Dimitri, I know you wanted to talk a little bit more about this as well. So I'll invite you back onto the stage, and if anyone else wants to contribute to this question as well, feel free to do so. So yeah.
All right, question number 2, the ENdori problems. So
don't know where to begin. There's too many problems.
yeah. Sorry, I tried to kind of remember, because my head goes all the way up to the head.
Okay, try to focus on a few specific points and then go from there.
Yeah. So as I said in the message, stability issues. On June 21st, there were at evening UTC +4, specifically 10 p.m. throughout the midnight, I experienced pretty big server issues. When I tried to join the matchmaking, the servers was just like threw me an error that I kind of had like quote unquote unstable connection, even though despite the fact that torrent seeding works fine, music working fine, social media working fine, YouTube was working fine, everything else that is not Bang Dream working fine related to my ISP, but Bang Dream just doesn't. It took them hours in order to kind of fix their situations, which they, I think, did. All the way, so that's just only one point. The second point I want to talk about is that, as you mentioned it, they confirmed that they're not going to be bringing in any kind of substitute interim versions, 6.2, 6.3, 6.4, 6.5. These are not going to be bringing in at all. Instead, a straight jump going to happen to the major version 7, period. So, no fixes for Never Everland song that people trying to play on different phone languages, for example, Russian and French. For the context point, if you try to play that song, and when you hit that unusual BPM, the song just becomes like 10 times faster than normal, and you cannot do anything. I think in some circumstances it will probably just completely lock up when you get into the song. But anyway, this is not going to be fixed for the next 3 to 4 months. They're going to be straight transition to the next one. The second thing is that they were not really communicating that too great, at least in my vision. So last week, I was pretty stupid, and then I at one point I just completely lost my one of my secondary accounts, not my main ones. The main one is still completely alive. I have Google Play connected to it, and I still have, I think, my third account. But one of my second accounts just straight up gone because I forgot from my head, or some Android issue happened when trying to switch to the user between the local user accounts, and it just straight up corrupted it. So I didn't know exactly my my digit number ID. So I sent them an email trying to restore my account where I had, but they were not really communicating too well. I sent them last Friday, but they only started responding it tomorrow. But the answer was not really so great. So let me read the email. What they sent me in the first email. Sorry guys, but I really
some stories here.
Yeah. So here it is. Thank you very much for contacting Bang Dream Girls Bang Party customer support team. You can actually send a screenshot. Regarding to the inquiry, we have looked into the data based on the information you have provided and found the account. However, we have confirmed that the account has been accessed after your first inquiry and would like to know if you were able to recover your account. Yeah, they've been asking me if I'm even able to do this, even though I have no transfer ID account or anything. I had it, but when I logged in and then after I changed my Android local user account, corruption happened and I was no longer being able to. So I sent them a reply emails that I have not been able to properly access account even ever since the corruption. So I sent them several emails. The next email I sent them was on Monday. No answer. I send them another email at night from Wednesday to Thursday. Nothing. They only started communicating it again at afternoon 12:17 UTC plus 4. But they asked me for exact player name I had in there, including all symbols, spaces, and codes. All that kind of extra beautiful stuffs. The exact names of 4-star and 4-star characters that I had on that account. Yeah, the first one, the exact player name that I had. They probably may be asking me that I have like 2 accounts with that such a name, but they both have different rankings. That other account is stuck at the 207 rank. The other one, I'm still playing on it to this day, but the other one I have not been logging in for over a week. I have not even played Punchline Halloween, and I definitely even exchanged the medals and such from that VS Live event. And by the way, over in JPdori, you can actually have an extra week after the event. Well, I don't know. So basically, one extra event to do this to do exchanging. Meanwhile, in ENdori, you have to do exchange that kind of thing before the next event begins, which I completely lost it.
Yeah. So it is a unfortunate situation. I think it's a somewhere where a lot of situations complicated, and I have definitely heard some horror stories when it comes to trying to reaccess accounts and getting customer service support from ENdori. It is not the easiest. So
yes,
I think that's one thing for sure that I think they could definitely, again, not necessarily related to specifically the game, but just the support that they could give to the player base. I think that's something that they also should prioritize for sure as well.
Yep.
Okay. Good. All right. Well, thank you again, Dimitri, for contributing to this question. So, again, if anyone else wants to contribute their thoughts about ENdori, feel free to either just write something real quick in the comments or just raise your hand and we'll be able to attend to that question. You are welcome to contribute by voice. But overall, I do think the main plot points or the points that we hear from everyone here, at least listening, is just more communication from the staff members, just to give us a better idea of what is the direction of the game and how they could best support us. And also on a side note as well, just to be able to give more support to the servers as well, just technical things as well to make the game a little bit more stable and playable. Again, we had a whole debacle with like the Google situation where the game could not like play it all on Google. That was just super weird. That's a weird timeline as well. But yeah, never forget that. Yeah. So yeah, that would be the ENdori. Okay, so next of all, let's talk about question 3. So for those who are seeing in the chat, my computer did crash, so we're doing a little bit of a re-recording here. Anyway, but we're back. Let's do question 3. Question 3 of the studio question that I asked was, what are your thoughts about the collab that is happening in Bandori? We'll be really brief on this because I think a lot of people have pretty similar opinions on this particular collab. One thing to note is that I did post this question before the collab was officially announced, so we already know that it's going to be Chainsaw Man. But for a lot of individuals, we actually don't know. When they posted their answer, they didn't really know it was actually Chainsaw Man. So, we'll have to kind of go back in time, assuming we didn't know what the event was. So I'll share some of the answers that people had with regards to this particular question. Hanamori said, I hope the devs will do a collab with really famous anime. Wish a lot of songs and campaigns. There's going to be a campaign. It is a very famous anime, which is Chainsaw Man. So Hanamori did get that right. And there's a couple of songs as well. Chainsaw Man has 13 songs. Well, we only got 2, but licensing might be probably too difficult with that. So that is perfectly okay. So yeah, we have that answer there. Scarlett mentioned about the amazing members, Ron Sayo, as well as favorite Morphonica member, which I believe is Toko, because that's what Toko was announced at that point. Scarlett initially thought it was going to be Psycho-Pass, which is a pretty good guess. It's actually pretty close. Chainsaw Man and Psycho-Pass do have very similar vibes. So yeah, good stuff to Scarlett for also being a little bit psychic on what's going on there. Mie did mention that they hoped it was either Mob Psycho 100, Licorice Recoil, or Demon Slayer. And honestly, out of those 3, I would love to see Licorice Recoil collab. Although, again, it'd just be a little bit weird because they already have the opening. So, like, if you were to do additional songs, like, you would only do the ending? I don't know. It does feel a little bit odd. But honestly, though, Licorice Recoil with Ron as Chisato, which is a little ironic. And Sayo as Takina, that would be like so cool. That would be so cool, but we can only dream. We can only dream. PB Tenshi posted this comment after we figured out it was Chainsaw Man. Don't care too much about Chainsaw Man, but the cards are cool. The character choices are also very cool. And Desilis also mentioned that the Toko card itself is great. I think there's one thing I do want to mention about the collab that I think I'm a little bit, again, I'm not a little bit down upon. I think, again, overall collab vibe is really good. The fact that they chose a really popular anime means we're going to get a lot of new fans for the series as well that are going to learn about Bandori for the first time and play it because of Chainsaw Man. So I think that's going to be really cool. I like the aesthetics. I like the song choices. Ending 1 and Ending 12 are really good songs. So I'm okay with that. The only small gripe I have about the collab are the cards. Now, the cards are really pretty. Don't get me wrong. The art is fantastic, and the art is just beautiful, and it look really good. Like, for instance, Toko Power looks amazing, as Desilas has mentioned. But when you look at it in hindsight, you're like, well, this Toko Power really is just power drawn in kind of as a fan art, and then they slap it as from the Bandori artist, and they say, oh yeah, trust this is Toko, right? Like, this is definitely Toko. Don't worry about that. Yeah, and then of course Sayo is Makima, which I think is just such a weird fit. And yeah, she looked very like a bunch of different characters in one, and just like Makima with the like a sort of the cyan colored hair. So I think that's my only gripe about it. And they also, I think, did choose characters that would sell a little bit more. Ron and Sayo as being leads are definitely characters that would sell a little bit more compared to, let's say, I don't know, if let's say Masking was Denji, maybe Chisato was Makima. I honestly think Chisato as Makima would be really cool. But no, they choose the characters that they know they sell, and get the fans, get the new fans in, and try to really sell the series. So I'm really curious to see how well this collab will do in terms of boosting the sales for this month, and of course going into July. I'm really curious about that. I would love to see the numbers, because I should have mentioned this earlier in the podcast, but you could see that the Bandori sales are going down. Like, Project Sekai is kind of destroying the music section in terms of sales. Bandori has no chance right now. They're standing no chance, which is a little bit sad. But maybe the Chainsaw Man collab will bring some light to it. So I think overall, I do think that this collab is a fantastic choice. The fact that he couldn't get Oshinoko, I think that was also a little bit of a sad point, but Idolmaster did take Oshinoko, so and they actually brought the characters into the game specifically, so it's very interesting to see how that goes. But yeah, Yeah, so I think overall the collab though is a positive. These are some small nitpicks in regards to what I feel about the collab, but overall quite fine. In the interest of time, I'm not going to be answering questions from the viewers that are listening live because the last question is going to be very important. I want some extra time for these individuals, for viewers to share their thoughts about the last question. Before I move on though, the collab not only brought in of course these Chainsaw Man collab characters, but he also brought a new band. I want to briefly talk about MyGO because I feel it's really interesting that they're just adding a new band like that was a side project and it kind of became a main project. I really thought like they were kind of doing their own thing, kind of like Argonavis. But I think really quickly they realized if they don't put it in with the main series that it will flop, just like how Argonavis did. So they just suddenly shifted and be like, oh yeah, actually these guys are not like, their own universe. They're actually part of the school. They go to Hanaoka, they go to Hanasakigawa as first years. And it's just like, I don't mind that. Well, I kind of do mind that. I feel like it's like, they're just suddenly plopped into the universe when it just kind of feels like, they were their own thing. And it's suddenly like, oh yeah, JK, we're just putting him in our own universe. But I think that there's some minor gripes about that, but the characters look really good though, and I think a lot of people are really enjoying the characters. From what I've seen from people watching the anime, I've never seen a negative impression. I think a lot of people really enjoy the new characters. They really they're really warm to it. I just don't like how these were suddenly implemented to be like, oh yeah, JK guys, we're putting into the series. So yeah, but I think again, new band is fun. We'll see how it goes. Let's see how it develops. But for the time being, let's hope that they are received well and it continues to grow. And of course, we have Avi Mujika. Avi Mujika. I don't even know how it's pronounced, but yeah, that's sort of the idea there. So so that's sort of what I hope will happen eventually when it goes to MyGO. So I think a lot of people in the comments as well are pretty excited about them, and also of course about Abe Mujika as well. If you guys remember, there was also like some sort of VTuber project as well where they were trying to hire like individuals to like voice for VTubers. I didn't know it was actually like maybe like a year and a half ago since they made that announcement. I honestly thought it was only like a few months ago when they made that announcement, but like I think that project's probably scrapped, I think. Someone had like a really funny conspiracy theory on Twitter where they're like, "Oh, Kidani was trying to capitalize on NFT VTubers, and then once NFTs died, like Kidani also like killed the project." Like, it doesn't sound like too wrong. Yeah, I think it was like a separate project or something. I don't know, but either way, that is something that is quite interesting and fascinating. Hey everyone. Hope you're enjoying the episode so far. As a reminder, the RePHIL Studio podcast is available on all of your favorite podcast platforms. Check us out on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. And when you're there, make sure to leave a high rating and also leave a comment, because all support with regards to bringing more exposure to the RePHIL Studio podcast is greatly appreciated. Speaking of support, big shout out and thank you to the Filler Nation members who've been constantly supporting me in making my content. So you'll be featured in videos like these. And again, I want to say a big thank you to you all for supporting me on my content. So if you want to be a part of the Filler Nation and you want to support me and my content, feel free to join by subscribing to my Twitch channel. Links in the description below. And in the description, you also see the link to my UNGA Academy Discord server where you can join fellow members who are passionate about Bang Dream and also be able to interact with special guests featured on this podcast. You'll also be able to participate in the studio question that appears on every episode. So we look forward to seeing you there. So let's hop right back into the episode. So the final question here is, what are some recent tiering memories that we'd like to share with the game? And I want to first start off with myself. Recently, of course, I tiered the summer fireworks, Blinking, the Chisato fireworks event. Also did it with Nag, who also shared about his experiences hallucinating trying to get to T3. But that was a really fun event for me. It was my last big tiering event that I really am trying to aim. I don't really see myself doing more than T10 in the future. But that was a really fun event for me personally. Got to meet a lot of people that especially that were maybe disappointed about the results before, and then be able to go back and try again and be able to get their goals that they wanted this time. I think it's just great to see that they were able to get the goals they want, and I'm really happy for them. So a big congratulations again to Baked Goods, to Nag, and of course the rest of the server as well. So I'm really happy for them. I'm going to kind of go in reverse order here. PP Tenshi, hanging out with friends, talking about in the community, and meet people that they love really much. So yeah, tiering is a very community-based event. That's the thing I think I'll miss tiering about the most, just being able to hang out with people and just be able to hang out with people that like are similar minded. They all have the same goals and they all love ENdori, and you know, I will definitely not miss the time spent on just spending and wait and just keep playing the game over and over again. Yeah, the community aspect I think is something that I will certainly miss for sure. Scarlett mentioned about the event, after an event ends, you know, the fact that people cheer her on makes her very emotional. There's also some experiences. I'll just share it on the screen here. There's some experiences of cheering JP despite being on Impulse. That's also a lot of fun. And then going with pubs, trolling pubs with stamps are always a lot of fun as well. That is something that I am also pretty, I find this pretty funny as well. And then Joe mentioned about getting baited by doing specific medley lives when usually they're dead, and then the one medley live he tiered was woke is crazy. That's like the danger about tiering events, right? When you think an event is dead, a lot of people might also think it's dead. So then when they all try to tier together, you realize, uh-oh, it's not dead. So then some bad things happen. So yeah, so there you go. That is something that we do want to be a little bit careful when it comes to choosing specific events that you want to tier. So you just have to be a little bit careful there. All right, so I want to take some time and take a few minutes to really have individuals share their stories. In the interest of time, we'll share maybe a one or two recent tiering stories and try to cap it around 5 or so minutes, I would say. So we'll start with Dimitri, and then we'll go down the list here. So Dimitri, we'll start with you, and you could share some of your briefly share some of your recent tiering memories. What are some key takeaways there? So yeah.
So last tiering memories in 2023. As you know, in 2023 over in ENdori, I did a T10 over in Rinkorui event. Now, initially I thought I was able to go for a podium, but then as I soon saw how the other competitors have went, as well as the members over on that server were not really so active to my needs. I as the result did not actually get the podium, and that's what also PP Tenshi has hoped it for. And it was pretty fun, even though I was not really feeling too good. I had to do all of the kinds of college stuffs, but I will say it was a passable grade, because I did wanted to get, which is at minimum actually get a true T10 for the first time. So shout outs to all the people who have helped each other. Shout outs to one person that reached exactly 10th place. And so this is actually the first time that I parked on the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 points. The next big tiering experience that I actually had was throughout the month of April. Now, as you know, I actually got T50 over on Evening Call 5:45 p.m. You know, that ran Yukina thingy. It was a medley live, so it was a kind of okay event. There was nothing too much going on, but eventually I had to kind of like a bit rush out on that. The second big actually help that I did was in the next 2 events, especially the Dori, the Sky is Clear Today event, the Baby Arisa event. And I took a big challenge in order to help out Atoto, Vince, Mitsu, as well as other people going for the T10. And I was like amongst the people who have helped really much, even though I was like in a very different time zone position than other people going for the some of the other people going over for the T10. Also, shout outs to Ko and shout outs to Z also managing to do this all together. I didn't. Most of the time, 95 to 96%, I was going to all the flameless, and technically I could have got a T100, but I was like, T100 was not enough. Let's go for the T50 for the extra ticket. And by the almost when the event was about to finish, I was thinking if I was like going to get loaded and such. So I started using some of my flames. In the meantime, yes, I did actually play it in between with the full sets with that, but at the end I did actually decide to use all of my flames in order to not get completely bloated from T50, and that was worth it. I did get my almost flameless T50. Another T50 that I done it is the Long Night Embracing Eternity event, the heavily Scio focused event. Congratulations on Margit for getting T3. I really helped you quite a bit on the event. Unfortunately, I didn't really help you that much as what I have hoped. So it was quite fun to help you that, and for me to also get a T50. And as the last cherry on top, I really wanted it to get. I initially wanted to get another T50 on a Summer Fireworks Never Blinking event, but all of these circumstances made me the fact that I was not really able to do a T100. For example, I was not even like playing that much on specific days, but the most important one that actually took the most was Thursday, when I had like three things. One, the weather was bad outside, and number two, I had to go to doctor, and number three, I had online college to do in the evening. So three things in the same day on Thursday that really made me to not do T50. So thank a lot. I wouldn't really plan to do any kind of another T10, or more likely actually do a proper podium, but like it's way too complicated to think what event I'm gonna go next because of all of these additions that JPdori will be bringing in. I'll be thinking throughout the next 12 months while I'm actually gonna during that time graduate from the college. But anyway, thanks a lot to people who have supported me, and I hope you continue doing that in the future. Thank you again.
Wonderful stories, Dimitri. Thank you for sharing. Just again, hearing all the achievements you got, again, that's a lot of tiering achievements, from getting a T10 to getting multiple T50s, all while juggling a lot of things, right? Like, juggling health, juggling school, and, you still have college to come. And you mentioned that you're going to hopefully graduate pretty soon. So all the best there, not only in graduation, but also, of course, your tiering as well. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what you do there.
I graduated from school all the way back in 2019 when I finished the junior school. I decided to not go for the high school 10th, 11th grade here. So after that, I immediately went to college, and by these rules, you have to do 5 years of it. If I would like doing online college for after 11th grade, that would be only like 4 years. But with the specific kind of thing I want to go is gonna take me 5 years in order to get there. So, yeah.
Okay. Well, all the best, Dimitri. Thank you again for sharing. Those are, some lovely stories to hear. And all the best in your future tiering events as well. We definitely look forward to seeing, hearing some more for there. Sure. Okay. Great. So next up, let's bring in Marhi on stream on this podcast as well. Dimitri did mention her briefly during their tiering adventures. So let's have that go on there.
Hello.
Hello. Welcome back. So, tell us a little bit more about some of your tiering achievements that you would like to share with us.
That's kind of funny because I actually started tiering the same event as Dimitri, which was Zombieland Saga.
I see.
And it was actually my first ever tiering try. And I really didn't know how the things worked out. And I came not prepared for that. And I tried for T100, but I got T300 instead, which I was still proud of. because it was my first ever try. So yeah. But I think the most the most important event for me, as for now, is Embracing Eternity, in which I got T3. And yeah, I had the best of fun and met wonderful people there. And I was actually pretty scared because I remember I didn't want to tier that event at first, but then there was Mira who convinced me, and I was like, "Hey, it's Happy Salia, which is your main team. Why don't you go for it?" And I was like, "Okay, that's fine. okay." And we made the server together, actually, so it's also hers. But there was Kay on the other side, and I was scared because at first I was like, okay, who's Kay? Then I checked on Twitter and I saw other tiering achievements. I was like, okay, fine. I'll try anyway. I was not sure, but in the end, it turned out pretty well. I met wonderful people there, and yeah, I think it was my best memories are there, actually. So that's I don't know what to say.
Well, why don't I ask you this, Mare? So, like, going from going from getting a T300 to T3 as like basically your second major tiering experience, that must have been a pretty difficult transition. Yeah. Like, what did you do to sort of overcome that? How were you able to adapt to that?
So at T10, it was nowhere else, which is medley, but still.
Okay.
I was like, okay, this is my dream event because I love Yuki, I love Roselia, and I love Winter. And I decided to try for that, and it turned out pretty well. I was more prepared, and I got T9. And yeah, I met Nebby at the time and Tyron. This was kind of I don't know what to say, but after I met them, it was easier to get along with other tiers. I don't know, because they're on the heaven of Roselia tiers. So yeah, I got a bunch of 300, and the funny thing is that I never got a T100.
so you skipped a few things, right? You have a podium, you have a T10, but T100 still a work in progress.
Yeah, I got T50 on Route to Avalon, in which I was aiming for T10, but since I had an exam coming, so I couldn't do it. Actually, that marked me so much because I loved that event. And I was really sad I couldn't do it. And so once Embracing Eternity arrived, I was like, I don't know if I'm going to do this. What if it happens again? I was very paranoid at the time. So yeah, I saved as much as I could. And yeah.
Oh, well, regardless, big congratulations on that. It's just great to hear that, you were able to learn a lot from that and be able to go from, just a quick T300, a little bit of influence from other people, right? But eventually, you'll get your podium title, which is honestly quite fantastic. So
thank you.
You're welcome. So thank you for sharing that, Marhi. It's great to hear that story. Awesome.
Thank you.
So let's move on. We'll go to Mie next. Mie, will invite you on stage to share briefly about your tiering stories. Hello.
Is my mic okay?
Yes, your mic is great. So let's hear it. What are some stories you want to share with our audience here?
My most recent tiering experience was Crush on the Drum, which was like 2 weeks ago, and I was originally going to tier for the Afterglow Halloween, but then I ended up not getting on the roster. So I asked one of my friends to be on their Crush on the Drum roster, like literally a day before the event. And thankfully she said yes. And I got to get another T10 title, and honestly, I'm really glad I didn't tier for the Afterglow Halloween because it was pretty competitive. And Crush on the Drum like died like 3 days in, so I didn't even do anything for like the whole time.
Okay. Well, was regardless, even though Crush on the Drum wasn't maybe necessarily your dream event, were there still like characters on the event that you enjoyed and you still felt some sense of happiness and accomplishment doing that tiering there?
Yeah, I love Masuki and Maya and their friendship and how they like both look up to each other, and I think it's just really sweet. I love the event story.
That's wonderful. Again, backup options, last minute backup options, especially, last minute saying, okay, we're tiering this event tomorrow. It's, not the easiest, but you're able to handle that. What were the hours like? Did you grind hard in the beginning and then of course you kind of chill at the end?
Yeah. At first the event was like super competitive. Like I was doing a bunch of hours, but then like after one of our roster members dropped, it got okay. Like I literally didn't play for like the last 4 days.
Yeah. Sometimes it's relaxing to be able to get a title that doesn't necessarily require so much stress in your life, right? You're able to do some tiering, and then you have a little bit of time of your life to yourself, and then be able to move on and maybe use that to even prepare for events as well in the future. So well, that's wonderful. Anything else you want to note about that event, or maybe a previous event that you also did before?
I did tier the Baby Arisa event, and it was actually my first T10 for joining a tiering server, and actually joined the tiering server because of like this server. Like I saw your YouTube videos about like tiering and stuff, and I was like, oh, this is cool. And I joined this server, and like I saw the server portal and stuff, and that's how I found the server for Baby Arisa.
Oh wow! Well, I'm glad to be a part of what started a little bit of your tiering journey. The UNGA Academy Discord server has definitely been a positive impact on many people to get things started. So and again, the fact that your first event was a T10 is very impressive. So you basically got right into it very quickly.
Yeah, Baby Arisa was a lot of fun. Everybody was super kind, and honestly, I was like, it was super awesome. I didn't expect it to be that awesome.
Wow, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. Any future events you plan on doing? Because it seems like you have a pretty good knack of this tiering thing going on, right? Anything that you plan to do in the future?
I think I'm gonna do graduation part 2, and then probably stop because of the whole 5-star thing.
Yeah,
I don't want to spend too much.
Basically, get as much events as possible before it gets too expensive with the game. Yeah, I do agree. So, yeah. All right. Well, Mia, all the best in that. Thank you for sharing your stories. I'm glad that I was a part of, helping you learn a little bit more about tiering and influence you. But, whale fluence is generally not a good thing, but, I think for tiering is a fun thing. So thank you again, Mia, for sharing your stories. I'm glad to hear that.
Thank you too.
Yeah, wonderful. So let's move on to Tyrimi. Will. We'll have you join the stage next, and then we'll end things off with Crowley. So, if you're able to join up.
Hello. Sorry, I'm so nervous. I don't know why.
Well, this is not your first time, I think, on here, right?
It's not. No,
last time
joined...
you were here with Steve, and Steve.
Yes, I was here with Steve.
Helped carry a little bit, right? So now you're on your own, but no worries, no worries. Again, Tyrimi, we'll just learn a little bit more about some tiering experiences you had maybe since the last time we spoke.
One of probably the big ones, it's somewhat recent, but I mean, it was a year ago. It was Sprecor. That event was definitely something. I went into it thinking that I wasn't going to be able to do it, but I ended up pulling my all and finishing exactly where I wanted to be. And it definitely would not have been without the help of my roster, because they helped me a lot. But that event was definitely rough, but it is probably by far one of the most impactful events that I have ever done.
Definitely. I think in essence, though, even though some events could be really competitive and they get really stressful, and it really is like it really taxes you mentally. You know, some events at the end of the day, like when you see how the competition goes, they really become really entertaining to see and experience. I've only, like, all my 2 times doing T10 plus, they're only been incredibly competitive. So I know the feel of you know, having to play so many hours, and it's just such a stressful experience. But again, I'm sure with the support that you got through your roster, through your server, and just the memories you created through that event, either fun memories or maybe memories of all the exhaustion you had and the hallucinations maybe, but regardless, you were able to get some your goals.
Fun fact, I was actually going to drop day 2, but I saw Rachel's lyrics for the song Sprecher, and that immediately made me keep going.
Shout outs to Rachel, of course, a podcast guest, a friend of the podcast, of course. Another
event that probably means a lot to me is the current one. I'm tearing it right now. It's really fun.
Wow. So spending time to join our podcast to talk about this, but also, you know, tearing at the same time. That takes some dedication.
Yeah, definitely. Another event probably that means a lot to me, which I only T100, but it was seeing Noodle T1. I came into the community from ReZero Part 1, and Noodle was kind of someone that I looked up to for a long time.
Yeah.
And it's kind of funny. This event, I kind of stole something that he did. Oh. It's Can't Stop, Won't Stop, Aya Dance every hour.
Oh, no.
It's pretty fun.
Yeah. The memes are always really fun to kind of keep everyone going, right? That's why it's Can't Stop, Won't Stop, Aya. So
definitely
that's a lot of fun. That is definitely a lot of fun. So, you know, again, it's really cool to see how people learn from each other, get inspired from other people, older members of the community. Maybe even though they don't necessarily play as much anymore, the baton passes on. And you know, we hope to continue inspiring more people. So yeah, great. Well, Tyree, all the best in this current event, Campus Beat.
Thank you.
It seems decently woke, I think, but may not be as bad.
I'm gonna try my best.
Well, what are you aiming for, if you don't mind me asking?
T1.
T1. All right. So T1 hours clearly includes a quick commercial break in the RePHIL studio, but all the best. On that, I'm sure that you'll do quite well, and we'll sure that people listening will share your support, because this episode hopefully be out by the time you're still tearing. So last minute support might be you might get some last minute support. So we'll see how that goes. All right. Well, thank you again for contributing your story today.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. All right. So last but not least, we'll end off with Crowley to finish things off for this episode of the RePHIL studio. So
okay. So can you still hear me? I have to be kind of quiet.
Oh yes, we can hear you. I know it's getting a little late, but feel free to share a little bit of your stories here.
Okay, so the first time I probably seriously teared was Iris of Secrets of Youth, which was also when Android on ENdori was having heaps of issues for some reason, with crashing.
Yeah,
which made it really difficult. And I have a funny story about that.
Uh-oh.
So like I was like really close to like the T100 cutoff, and it was like right before the event ended, and I was like, my game like entirely stopped working and wouldn't open at all it wouldn't get past the loading screen without crashing. And I thought I was gonna get voted, but I didn't. And I was so grateful for that. I think I got top T98. I'm still surprised I didn't get voted, because that event was crazy. And then my other one was T34, past present, Rui Rinko. I'm really proud of that, especially because it was like it was my first time seriously using like a tiering server, and I'm grateful for all the people who helped me in that server. Like, I'm very grateful for that, but I'm also really proud of that because that was my first T50. And I'd like to eventually get a T10. I just have to find like the perfect event, but like for now, T50 is fine.
Yeah. Well, that's what here. Again, a lot of people here today have they're kind of connected with various events. There's always a little bit of connection, with like Spector. There's the Rui Rinko event. Of course, there's the Zombieland Saga, where both Dimitri and Marhi learned a little bit more about tiering together. So it's really cool to see how, again, a lot of different connections with regards to various different various different events. So what would be your dream event if there was one?
Some kind of my 3 favorite characters getting an event together. That's pretty much it.
So that'll be Kaoru. I know Kaoru for sure.
Rui and masking.
Kaoru, Rui, masking. That seems doable. That's basically the that's a little bit of like the bourgeois event, but maybe Redux. That,
sadly. Yeah, Redux, because I wasn't able to tier that, sadly.
Yeah. All right. So hopefully that will go well. And again, so far you've gotten some T50s, get a little bit of experience under your belt, and we'll see if will be more tiering experiences for you in the future. We did mention previously they might get a little bit more competitive, but or a little bit more resource heavy. But I think if it was for your favorites, I think you a lot of people would do everything they can. So
I totally would, 100%.
Great.
Anyways, that's all I have to say. So thank you.
All right. Well, thank you again, Crowley, for contributing to this episode, and of course contributing to that question. So that brings us to the end of today's studio, and the end of today's episode. So thank you all so much for taking the time to answer these lovely questions with me, either through the text in the UNGA Academy Discord server, or for our lovely live viewers who are able to contribute to their thoughts on voice. All those are greatly appreciated. So for now, this will be it for the episode, and this will be it for the RePHIL studio. So I usually say we will refill in the next set, but for the time being, that won't be the case. The event has been over, so you don't have to refill anymore. You could relax and exchange your Marina, exchange boxes, and all that fun stuff. So so thank you all so much for taking the time to join the RePHIL studio. Again, this is a project that I have been incredibly proud of, to be able to share the stories of others, like I mentioned earlier in today's episode. I'm not counting out the possibility of revival. So please keep that in mind. But again, I'm not sure when that'll ever be. But regardless, let me know again in the comments below, either in my YouTube or whatever it's being posted. And again, RePHIL Studio podcast is available on all of your favorite podcast platforms: YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. Let me know as one final comment. What was your favorite memory of the RePHIL Studio? Maybe if there's a particular episode that you enjoyed the most, or a memory that you've had for the past 2 years, let me know in the comments. I'll be very happy to look over those and share that. So yeah. And of course, if you're new to the channel, feel free to subscribe on YouTube, subscribe on Twitch, all that fun stuff. I'm still going to be making content. Don't worry, guys. It's just that at least for this podcast, this project will be complete, and the set and event has been fully complete. So once again, thank you all so much for being a part of this journey for the RePHIL studio. We'll hope to see you next time, and hopefully you could go back and listen to some of the fond memories of this project. But that will be it for this episode and for the set. So thank you all so much. We will see you all next time. Bye-bye.